How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, as I mentioned in my Diablo 4 dissected video, if you asked for it, I would make a video unwrapping like Blizzard does. So here it is. A lot of people were requesting that. This is the character that we are going to be unwrapping. We're not going to do it here in Substance Painter. The reason why we are in Substance Painter is because I want you to see the results that we are going to get. We're actually on the unlit mode. What I did is, this is just the big maps and the usual value paint over that I do in Photoshop. So you can see the value breakdown for the character. If we go into material mode, you can see how he looks with lights on, but I rather look at him here on lit. He looks pretty cool. And this is just the base that I usually build up on and start texturing. Now, if we go to the UVs, you can see where we are going to get at the end. This is what I think is a Blizzard way of unwrapping, mostly rectified. Again, you cannot rectify, not everything can be a square or a rectangle because that can begin introducing some distortion, but there are certain bits that you usually rectify just so it looks like this. And one of the things that I did just for, S and giggles is just look at this is the arm. The arm is how I would usually unwrap. So there's a rectification on most sides, but this part, and what I did is I did rectify the leg completely, is a complete rectangle, just to test out and just to show you that you can do whatever. This just takes a little bit. Well, not a little bit. This actually took a lot more work for a leg. Legs are usually not difficult. Like the arms, you're gonna see that we do it pretty fast. Then there are a couple things when it comes to the face. And in my opinion, the one that's more intricate is the hands. In this case, if you want to do UVs like this. Let me get some things out of the way. Number one, we're going to do this in Maya, because I learned how to do it in Maya. I looked how to do it in Blender. I haven't found a way to do it in Blender. This is a process that is very manual, and I have not seen like the same tools to do it in Blender. So unfortunately, I cannot do a video on that. If you know of a way to do that in Blender, please let me know in the comments sections down below so I can look it up and maybe revisit for all of you guys. Now, this is a very manual process. So in order for this video not to be super long, what I did is I have the core of the video on this channel, because I promised people I will post this video on my other channel, my tutorial channel, which by the way is still on YouTube. It's everything, the content's for free there. So I'm going to leave a link in the description down below for the long version of this. This should be posted on the same day that I'm posting this video. And with that said, let's get started. All right, so this is the character that we're going to be unwrapping today. And I don't know if I said it in the intro already, but you're going to need good topology if you want to unwrap this way. The way that I get good topology nowadays is just by wrapping. Honestly, I hardly retopologize a character by hand. The only hand retopology that I usually do is if I have some armor pieces or if I have some clothing pieces in there. But when it comes to the body of the character, I usually grab something that has great geometry, like let's say the metahumans, and wrap that geometry around my character, and then I take it to Unreal Engine and it's rigged, all that. That's actually why I use the metahumans. This isn't using a metahuman. This is using another base mesh that I have here that has good topology, but it is wrapped. So again, if you are a beginner, I highly recommend that you know how to retopologize, because you are going to need it anyways. This is just to make things easier because I've done it so many times. Now let's get started with deleting half the character, and that's because you work smarter, not harder in this industry. People want to be efficient as they can be. So instead of unwrapping both sides, I'm just going to unwrap one side and then I'm going to use the mirror tool. All right, and this is what we had for UVs. What I did is I just did a camera-based projection. You can do whatever projection you want. That's usually how I start the character. And we're gonna go from what, in my opinion, is the easiest part to the hardest part. So easiest part, what I would call easy, is let's say the arm and the forearm, the leg, all the way to the feet. The torso, I would call it medium, usually because the torso may or may not have variations other than being a cylinder. Because that's what makes it easier. The fact that this is pretty much a cylinder, same thing with the leg, that's what makes things a lot easier. Then the hardest part would be the fingers, because the fingers is just a bunch of arms, and then the face. So let's start with the arm, and we're gonna place a seam around here. Yeah, let's go with this over here. I'm gonna cut, and then we're gonna go to the bottom all the way before the hand starts. We could do it here. However, I like to do it on the natural loops. So we cut there, and then we have the UV shells. Take this UV shell out of here, same with the hand. And all we have is the arm in the 0 to 1 space. Now what we're gonna do is we need another seam to unfold. And I usually go with like the inside of the arm. So let's look for, put this away for a second. And let's look for what I would think is a natural seam. Let's do this one over here. So, and select UV shell, unfold. All right, and this is why I call it the easy part, because as you can see, we are, let's say 60% there. All right, now what we need to do is we need to square this off in kind of like a rectangular fashion. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into the UV portions. And again, you can do this on your tool of choice. I know that this can be done in Max. I just don't like to use the pelting tool the way that Max does it. I've been using Max for so many years too. Once you select it, then all you got to do is align to the bottom. Whoops, I missed one. So yeah, just make sure that you got these types of tools and you'll be able to replicate this process on any software you have. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the edges over here. Now, one thing that I need to mention is make sure you are in UV, because if you are in vertex, then you're going to be selecting the other side too. So that can be a problem. All right. So it looks super stretched right now, but don't worry. And now we're going to unfold along the U. Remember, U is horizontal, V is for vertical. So we're going to do that, and you can see it does that, and it kind of gets it where it should be, but there are some problems here at the bottom, so we just do it again. And all right, now let's check our work, and let me make this bigger so we can see things a little bit better. All right, so we are good here, but we are not great here. One of the things we can do is make it a little bit smaller like that. And one of the problems that I'm seeing is that around this area right here, I'm getting too much distortion. So what we can do is unfold vertically. There you go. And you can see now their squares are a little bit better. All right. So we have the arm unwrapped. And I know some of you are going to say, well, there's a little bit of distortion. That's why I showed you in the intro how this bakes, because you see how it bakes really good and there is no problem whatsoever. We can grab certain parts here, and I like to do an unfold. just to make sure that everything is doing fine. Now, one of the issues with this is we, especially nowadays, we want everything to be as automated as possible. This isn't a process that I would call can be automated if you want it to look like this. There are tools that can help you automate unwrapping that will get you good UVs. Now, if you want this types of UVs specifically, I personally have not seen any tool that can help you achieve this without, going in kind of guiding the vertices and all of that. So again, if you know of an automated tool that can do this, please leave in the comment sections down below. I'll be very interested to know about that. So one of the things you can do is align your seams. What you would do is go to vertex, select both, and you do align, and you can see that they switch. So now these two vertices are aligned. So I'm going to go and do that for the whole thing. And then I'm going to unfold it again, just so there's no issues right there. Now, again, I'm just showing you this because somebody may need to use it, but I personally don't do this often because I haven't seen any issues with the bakes if I don't do this. And also my geometry is a little bit higher, so if your geometry is lower or much lower than what I have right now, this may actually affect your texture. So just so you know that this is something that you may have to do. Now, what I'm going to do after I did all that alignment is I'm going to fix this issue by just unfolding along the vertical axis. So you're going to see that right now, the texture is going to do this and it's going to go up. It's going to go up. It's super distorted. It's horrible. But once I do, make sure you look at this part. Once I unfold along the vertical axis, you can see how everything is fixed. And everything goes straight through the seam and the texture looks seamless, which is one of the things that you want. Even though you're hiding your seam as much as you can, you still want your textures to be seamless. So you can see that over here, the squares are crossing over with minimal to no distortion whatsoever. Of course, there's this number right here. All right, now it's torso time. So when it comes to the torso, you can decide to unwrap the torso and the pelvis together. Like this guy has short, so I could go all the way from the chest area all the way to the torso. However, this character has a lot of polys. I think he is around 8,000 triangles, which it's industry standard for nowadays. But if you're making a lower poly character, then I would be unwrapping the whole thing. So we're going to look for a natural loop. Around here, we could use this. Let me see. Yeah, it looks fine. Let's use the natural one. This one goes all the way around the character. And let me bring this up. We cut. And there it is. Now we need to cut it from the head. Let's just do torso and neck, because if you've seen the metahumans, usually there is a seam around here, which you could do. But for the head, we're just going to keep like the head, and we're going to include the neck in the torso. So let's do this line right here. And we're not going to unfold it just yet because we need to break it into front and back. If we don't do that, then this program's going to go crazy. It's going to make our life harder. So let's look for a seam here in the middle that we can use. Like if this character had a seam on the shorts, this probably would be it. So I'm just going to do this. So this is another texture that we're going to rectify quite a bit. There may be just like the arm, not everything's going to be rectified. So just as before, UVs. All right, so when it comes to this, it depends on how we're going to pack this up once we hit the other part of the symmetry. Because I may choose to put things out of the 0 to 1 space, but if not, then I'll just make a seam here, rectify it, and we'll do this in different pieces. All right, let's do what, in my opinion, is one of the trickiest body part to unwrap when you're doing a humanoid character. So we already have it separated from everything else. What we need to do is make some seams, and I like to divide it into like the palm and the back of the hand. All right, there you go. So that's why good topology is always important, so you can find your seams easily. Unfold, and let's see what happens if we unfold this one. Okay, this is the problematic one. We'll deal with this one in a bit. Let's deal with, take this away, and let's deal with this one first. So the times that I usually do this, first I try to get my fingers straight. So I don't mind like whatever, I'm not looking at this. We're not going to be looking at that part. What I want is the fingers all pointing in the same direction. We also need to mind the size of the fingers, but we'll look at that after we have settled the position of the fingers. So let's go here, modify layout, got the menu here. Let's see, packing resolution, all that, that's fine. Shell padding, let's do 2. And let's apply. The point of that was to get the textile density to one single type of textile density across the whole model. And one of the things that people commented, because I posted the packing that I did on social media, a lot of people say, well, the face is too small, it should have more resolution. And I agree. The problem is when you have a character that is showing, let's say it's a character that's, bare chested, or it's even a character that has the face and the little bit of the upper chest showing. Maybe it's a female character, has a cleavage of that. If you have something like that and you're texturing, if your face or your head mesh, your head UVs has more resolution than everything else, once you are texturing, whether it's in Substance Painter or whatever program you're using, the results are going to be a little bit funky. Like you would have to mask and adjust just for the head, and it just makes for a lot more work than is necessary. So my train of thought is, if I'm having a character that's covered, like let's say all the way to the neck, then I would probably make this in a separate sheet or a separate UV texture set. The things, I could make it a little bit bigger. If you make it a little bit bigger, it doesn't matter that much. If you make it, let's say, like a whole UV sheet, like for instance what it is in the metahumans, once you're texturing, it can be a pain. So there's that. Now that we've done that, we're not going to use this packing. I just wanted to get the same textile density. We're going to bring in the other side of the character, and this is where we're going to determine a couple of things. I think I'm going to determine how am I going to pack this, because if you watch my dissected series, there's several ways that you can pack for a video game, even for some AAA that we've seen on the channel. So one could be overlapping UVs. The other one is to have the other side outside of the 0 to 1 space and make it tile. That is one way that you see it done a lot. Not every character does that. Let me bring in the other side and we'll decide that. All right, so we brought the other side. This is the mirror option that comes with Maya. Let's go to perspective. And we're going to do a couple of things here. So what I did is I told it to flip, as you can see from this little menu, on the local U, so local horizontal. The reason for that is because even if we weren't overlapping UVs, I can always flip back myself manually and then tell the layout to overlap them. You can do that here in Maya, and as far as I know, many other tools, you can do it in Max as well. So that's when I mirror, I always flip the UVs, so the process is much easier. Now what we're gonna do is we are going to stitch a couple of things, like the face. We're going to stitch together this part over here. So let me just grab edges. And we stitch together, there it is. All right, now this is the face. We have a little bit of distortion there, but in my experience, it doesn't matter much. I personally haven't had any issues whatsoever when it comes to baking, as you saw in the intro. So I'm going to keep the face together. Let's select this shell and put it away. Let's continue doing the rest. All right, so let's see what happens when we join this, how the packing is going to be. All right, now let's look at the other parts. UV shell, let's do this and this. This is the other thing that was symmetrical that I think we should join. We're gonna join it from the front. So let's go to edge and stitch together. Boom, there it is. Now they're together. So we got our major pieces are going to be, our major shells are going to be these. So these two and this one right here. which will get a little bit smaller once we pack everything. Because again, I'm following textile density. I'm not going for giving this more textile density just to the face, because again, it can get funky when you texture. So when it comes to the legs, I think I'm going to overlap those. So let me... All right, now it's packing time, and I'm going to go modify layout. Let's look at the menu. And as you can see, we have stack similar. Already have a checkout. Gonna apply. And there you go. Everything is packed. And as you can see, the head is a little bit smaller. All right. So we are here in Substance Painter, and what I did is a quick paint over with kind of like the hand painted style that I like to do. So that's why there's only 2 layers. Actually, this layer's not doing much, just to add a little extra oomph. But as you can see from just the unlit mode, for those who are not 3D artists, this is the mode where I remove all the lights. That's why it's called unlit. And just do the diffuse map. This is what you usually would see with like World of Warcraft characters. And everything looks awesome. There is no distortion whatsoever. There were some little bit of distorted bits here and there when we added the checker map, but when you add the actual texture, you can see that the character looks amazing all around. And again, this is just with a simple paint over that I do in Photoshop as a base color. I don't have the full skin shader, so don't judge me on that. This isn't how I fully would do skin. If you want to look at that, look at the Lyra character that I did on my Overwatch Dissected. It's also on my tutorial channel. But yep, this is the final result. And if you want to see the UVs, you can see the UVs right here. The only change that I did from what we left in Maya was to increase the size of the head just a little bit, not much. Like I said, if you increase the textile density of the head, that's not going to do much for this style of texturing. But if you start adding like generators and procedural maps, and you will have to kind of like work a little bit more to get those things to be the same between the head and the rest of the body, because this is a bare-chested character. So if you want to see more tutorials, let me know in the comments sections down below. If you want to see texturing or other parts of my workflow, I know I showed a little bit when I did the Lyra character, but if you want to see more in depth as to how I do this, just let me know in the comment sections down below, and we'll do a video like this one. Thank you everybody so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.